spaceships fill Jupiters. For preheating a reduced ready meal, it's Alan Lane's. Let's hit the buzzers, Mark goes.
Yes, Jack.
Ah, very good. Sarah goes.
Right away, Chef.
Phil goes.
Making it now, Chef.
And Alan goes.
Sorry, Chef.
Why would you want to eat in a restaurant with a heavy fork and nothing fresh on the menu?
Right away, Chef. Is it because you're in space?
The great restaurant in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about space or restaurants, but if there was one, then the heavy fork would stop it floating away.
Doesn't really work that with gravity. There either is gravity or there isn't.
Yeah.
The people are floating away, the fork's not going to be floating. These sprouts are going to be all over while you can't lift your fork.
This is just like the toothpaste that restaurants have.
What do you need the fork for?
Toothpaste.
Like somebody direct from NASA. Mark, what do you reckon?
The space thing's
You like that? Thank you.
in space you can't.
Okay.
Road things in space.
It's nothing to do with space.
You like I'd love to help you out.
Go on then.
So we're talking about like game. Is it a fork or is it another
It isn't easy.
walk in the road? Is it to do with space? So are we talking about like game? Is it a fork or is it another
It isn't easy.
walk in the road? Is it to do with space?
I've had some very difficult TV appearances, but my classes normally do stay on.
She starts throwing the hat around, you know you're in trouble, Mark Watson.
Okay, none of this is working. There is a computer scientist, his name is Dan Juratsky, and he looked at the description of dishes on 6,500 menus, and the higher end restaurants, they tend not to describe food as fresh. They don't describe it as tasty, they don't describe it as ripe, because the customers in the high end restaurants expect it to be those things. In fact, in posh restaurants, they tend to use kind of sexy terminology. So if food is sort of sensuous or silky, they use language like that.
Nude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a nude aubergine.
We got a topless chicken and we put it under the grill. Oh, it's the naughty.
This sandwich will wank you off.
We've all got
What's wrong? No! Okay, moving on. In posh restaurants, they use a completely different language. And here is the bizarre thing. People enjoy their food more with heavy cutlery. So there's a guy called Charles Michel. He is the chef in residence at Oxford University's Cross-Modal Research Laboratory. So what they are researching is how our different senses modulate the appreciation of flavour. And so he gave everybody exactly the same meal. And people who used heavy cutlery were willing to pay 15% more for their food. It's just the most bizarre thing.
Yeah, was there any point where the fork became too heavy? Because I reckon that is a scale that actually, by the time you've got like a garden fork, you're using to pay again.
What you might have done now inadvertently is inspired cheap restaurants to glue their forks to the table. The illusion of gluing two forks together, thereby doubling the weight.
One of the ways that restaurants trick you into spending a bit more money.
hypnotism.
What?
Hypnotism.
Hypnotism.
Would you like the view?
And one of the things they do is they remove the pound sign from menus. So they did a study at Cornell University, and if it just has the
the second time it's done today.
Hey, there we go. Right.
Better than that.
What's something you can get into one of these?
I'd say you can get into a bit of trouble if you painted it black and wrote bomb on it.
If you murdered a man with it, or woman, or anyone, that will get you in trouble.
How would you murder someone with a bread roll?
Gluten intolerant.
So throughout history, people who make the bread rolls, the bakers, have been punished severely if they lower the quality of their produce. So it is the bakers who can get into the most trouble. So bread has always been a staple food. We've probably, as human beings, been eating bread for about 30,000 years. If they can't afford it or it's not available, they're affected by it.
French Revolution.
French Revolution indeed started by the women in the market to pay for the price of bread. So one way in which to control
Giving them the wounds, wouldn't you?
We just don't get loads of bread, and I assume the price is fine.
yes, absolutely. One of the ways in which you can control it in bakers is to form guilds. So one of the earliest ones that we know about is the Collegium Mistorum, which was formed in Rome, which was about 160 a very, very long time ago. And it gave special privileges to bakers and families.
Sorry, guild.
Guilds.
I thought you said guilds like fish.
Guilds.
It's much more difficult to form guilds. You sort of either have them or you don't.
When do they put the seeds on? Do they do it before it goes in the oven or just when it's out?
They do it one at a time from the other side of the room. It's a great skill.
I like it. There's still seeds left.
So what we're saying is you're a messy eater.
In advance, some really posh restaurants, they just put the bread in front of you and you start cooking from side. Why do they offer you for a basket? Which bread would you like?
Yeah, I know.
Why not the nicest one, please? Which is the nicest one?
No, but also, you can ask for more than one, but you don't say no.
I'll say yeah, the little though.
Yeah. I'm not touch mine because I've got a fear that it'll turn out to be someone else's bread roll, because that often happens at Domino's. And it turns out it's the one on the left is meant to be the one. Stuff like that.
Okay, there's a really easy rule for me to be able to work this out. So under the table, if you make this sign like this one, when you look at it, forms a B, and this one forms a D. The bread that is
this is
yours is
where
on
they
this
wipe
side,
you
the
off.
drink is on this side.
Sitting next to Alan is like sitting next to a naughty boy at school. It's because you were doing this like really in a wanky way.
This is so multifaceted, but this is one skill that you've never
I never knew that.
Anybody know what baker's dozen is?
13.
Yeah. So in medieval Britain, the law, they were forced to sell bread by the weight rather than the price of each loaf. And if you undersold anybody, you got into terrible trouble. So they got into the habit of making a 13th loaf just to make sure that the total weight was not too low.
Hard time the bakers with everyone.
Lots of rules. I mean, the Romans, they wanted to make sure that bakers were saved from vice, so they were forbidden by law from hanging out with gladiators or comedians.
What about you, Michael Johnson?
And there were lots of laws in medieval times, so in the very first time adulterating your bread, you could drag on a hurdle through the streets with the bag and hanging from there. The second time it happened, you had your hands on your head. The streets were the third time. Drag through the streets of London was dismantled and were forced to swear that you could practice the trade.
slightly lost me at the word adultery.
Yeah, adulteration
because of what was it? The Atkins?
Two big crises in the 40s, the Second World War and the
Yeah.
It wasn't one, it was the other.
Yeah. The bread and vegetables were never rationed during World War II. In fact, there were subsidies from the government to make sure that it was all kept on the table.
Potatoes bigger or children smaller?
Look like around the heads or something. No, it was to do with the weather. Soon after the war, there were very heavy rains and very bad frosts between about 1946 and 1947, and then rationing of bread and potatoes came in. Then there was a bumper crop in 1948, and then after that, all the restrictions were gone. There's some wonderful stuff that they did do about food. Before the war, Britain imported about half its meat and more than its cheese and about a third of its eggs. So they did a test in 1939 to see if Britain could deal without all that protein. 8 human guinea pigs were sent for 3 months to live in the Lake District. Oh, I know. But they were given special diets. They were given much more bread and potatoes as they eat, and they were to spend their time on engineering and so on. And the result was fundamentally huge increase in flatulence. And an awful lot of time was spent eating because it takes an awful lot longer to get your calories from potatoes than to get through a steak. And I don't know who measured this, but it says here, thanks to all the extra fibre, there was also 250% more voluminous fecal matter amongst the participants.
So that's what ruins the holiday.
Yeah.
They're shitting in jars.
Yeah. You've been on that sort of holiday.
The lighters retreat.
Kids were given blackcurrant syrup free during World War II, so nobody know why.
Scurvy?
It is scurvy. The citrus trade routes were completely blocked, and so blackcurrants were grown domestically. Totally unknown in the United States. Why?
Because of the Ribena Wars of 18th century.
Which is sort of not far off, really. The American logging industry had a campaign.
Is that like the Lake District logging industry?
to the voluminous fecal matter.
I'm pretty sure I saw voluminous fecal matter around as loaded in 1950.
The American logging industry absolutely loathes the rabies plant because it has a disease that can threaten the white pine, and so blackcurrant was banned in the United States. In fact, the federal ban was only relaxed in 2003. It is still illegal in some states to grow blackcurrant.
So the Americans have never had Ribena.
They don't care for it.
That explains a lot.
It does, doesn't it? Did rationing help or hinder the health of the population?
I thought it helped him.
It did help, it did help. In fact, infant mortality rates halved between 1935 and 1950, and the age at which people died of battle causes that actually increased. Rationing was still going on when the then Princess Elizabeth married in 1947, and she had to use clothing ration coupons in order to pay for her dress. When they brought in clothing coupons, they weren't ready, so they repurposed margarine coupons. This cake, which was the wedding cake, was called the 10,000-mile cake. Why was it called that?
Did it travel a long way?
You are right. It came from South Africa and Australia. They were in fact donated. In fact, we have the recipe for the 10,000-mile.
Made of wombats and koalas.
Shall we have a look at the recipe? This is the recipe for a 10,000. In case anybody wants to make it at home, there we are. 60 pounds of butter, 55 pounds of sugar, 75 pounds of flour, 660 eggs, 80 oranges and lemons, 300 pounds of dried nuts. 3.5 gallons of baby rum. potatoes were rationed after the war, not because of the Nazis, but because of the weather. Right, bread away. Why is my cellar riddled with Frenchmen?
That's of your own conscience, really.
Oxygen, vinegar, trimming. Wartime malfunction. Wearing the man's trousers and gone to the bottom of the thing.
The bloke in the bottom was just on the stag night and he's been caught up in the war.
Do they know what the big... Is this French Revolution?
Well, it's actually not. It's the July Revolution of 1840.
What was that?
I don't know why the woman had to have her top off.
Because I think it's to get you interested. So it's like you learn something once you're looking at the painting, but you looked for the boobs. Right. It's that. They were like, we're interested, independent, but can you sex it up? Yes.
Do you want to be free? What if I got my tits out?
Maybe the little boy shows a bra strap on.
We've all done it as kids.
Why is my cellar riddled with Frenchmen?
Is it to do with wine?
It's to do with wine. What do you think it's to do with?
Oh, that's the special got.
Oh, you're just
Wine in the cellar, so I basically
Yes.
have to build on that.
So, riddler is the person whose job it is to rotate bottles of wine. Now, wine rotating. So, it's actually particularly to probably the most famous French wine. Champagne, absolutely. So it requires a secondary fermentation. So the yeast from the fermenting process is left in the bottle as the wine matures. It's what makes the bubbles appear. But nobody wants to buy a bottle of wine with bits of yeast sediment in it, so they have to be slowly removed. So what they do is they have to have so you have to get the yeast to the neck of the bottle. You have to imagine that there's all this sediment in the bottle like this, you see. And so what the riddler does first of all is that they rotate each bottle 90 degrees and then they push it slightly further into its cradle and they tip it slightly and that makes the sediment go down into the neck. And professional riddlers can turn and tilt 40,000 to 70,000 bottles a day. They do about 3 or 4 per second. In fact, I think you can see some on the video. I mean, he just looks like a terrible date, doesn't he? That's his actual job. That's his actual job. Unfortunately, they are now being replaced by robots, known as...
Oh, like all of us.
I know, who can do the job much quicker.
But he